The chamber pulsed with regal light as the Galactic Council convened in full attendance. Representatives from 12 dominant civilizations lined the amphitheater, each seated upon gravity-suspended platforms surrounded by ambient data streams. The session's agenda bore a single name: humanity. A race discovered barely a century ago, whose defiant refusal to submit to Council integration had drawn unanimous ire. Holograms of Earth flickered above the central dais, showing outdated images of cities, fossil-fueled transports, and regional militaries, primitive by Council metrics. Chancellor Virox of the Trillari opened deliberations, voice sharp with contempt. They refused to recognize authority. No interstellar registry compliance. No tribute. They jammed our envoys. They call themselves sovereign, yet they haven't even colonized their own moon properly. Applause followed from the Varnak war cast. The Threx Collective's neural consensus confirmed tactical advantage with the probability matrix. Earth's total defeat projected within 6.3 hours of engagement. One dissenting delegate from the Synthari cluster expressed hesitation, noting anomalies in signal behavior and Earth's irregular digital patterns. He was dismissed. Fleet intelligence provided final assessments. Human orbital defense capabilities were minimal. Energy weaponry virtually non-existent. No warp-capable vessels. Earth's information network, while vast, appeared directionless. The conclusion was not a question of victory, but timing. Analysts debated whether the operation would be complete before Earth's rotation reached its next daylight cycle. Council consensus settled on a generous estimate, 6 hours, accounting for atmospheric resistance and terrain interference. Operation Final Compliance was approved unanimously. 2 billion tons of interstellar armament began recalibration for Sol transit. Dreadnought formations, AI-driven swarm clusters, psychic suppression beams, and planetary subjugation units were dispatched. The sheer volume of the fleet darkened the transit corridors between Council sectors. Captains were briefed not on battle plans but on post-conflict governance. Earth would be dissected, reorganized, indoctrinated. Resistance, if any, would be ceremonial. Public transmissions were sent to Earth's frequencies. The Council declared a 24-hour ultimatum: surrender or be reduced. Their message was translated into over 400 languages, broadcast across Earth's satellites, hijacking visual networks. Earth's response: silence. No diplomatic relay. No surrender. No acknowledgement. To the Council, this absence of reply confirmed immaturity. Earth was, as Virox put it, a child hiding under a blanket. Preparations accelerated. Military AI on board each fleet vessel modeled conquest simulations down to the microsecond. Atmospheric penetration routes were optimized. Ground suppression zones were selected. Electromagnetic disruptors targeted command centers identified through years of passive surveillance. They knew the locations of human nuclear arsenals, defense bunkers, and communication hubs. The fleet would disable, dominate, and dismantle. There was no need to destroy. This was not a war, it was correction. As the fleets launched, dignitaries observed with anticipation, many streaming the operation to their homeworlds as a display of power. Council historians began drafting entries documenting humanity's brief resistance and inevitable capitulation. Predictive algorithms began crafting political models for Earth's integration. Multiple member species had already filed claims over resource zones across Earth's surface. The planet was being divided before a single shot was fired. During the final Council review, one analyst noticed the absence of defensive reaction from Earth's orbital perimeter. No early warning systems activated. No energy spikes. The orbital layer remained passive. Curious, a secondary scan was performed. Results showed nothing new: no shield signatures, no mass displacements, no unauthorized launches. Earth's lack of movement was interpreted as final confirmation. They had no plan. The final vote ratified the conquest. 12 voices in unison. War was declared. Not a war of necessity, but of cleansing. Humanity would be brought to heel not as equals, but as an example. The Council chambers emptied with quiet satisfaction. They expected minimal resistance. No surprises. No casualties. 6 hours of calculated operation. The countdown began. The stars above Earth had no idea what was coming. Neither did the Council. The message reached Earth with chilling clarity. An ultimatum from a power beyond comprehension, delivered in every known language, interrupting global broadcasts with the same demand: unconditional surrender. Leaders across continents scrambled to decipher intent, but the gravity was unmistakable. Satellites showed the approach of an impossibly vast armada, unchallenged by physics, backed by civilizations older than recorded human history. Panic rippled across governments and civilian populations alike. Emergency protocols activated. Martial law declared in multiple nations. Military analysts confirmed the obvious: Earth could not match what was coming. Inside secured networks, heads of state and high-ranking defense officials convened. There were no delusions of victory. Conventional weapons, nuclear deterrence, and electromagnetic defense systems were analyzed and dismissed within minutes. Discussions turned to survival. Some proposed immediate surrender to preserve human life. Others argued for symbolic resistance. No consensus formed. Fear began to fracture unity. The world watched skies darken with unfamiliar stars. Yet beneath the chaos, something else stirred. Hidden installations across the globe, unknown even to most military forces, came online. Coded transmissions flickered across narrowband spectrums, undetectable by foreign instruments. Civilian satellites experienced sudden malfunctions. Entire data clusters were quietly erased. A coordinated blackout extended across critical sectors: finance, communications, surveillance. Public systems remained active, but the real grid vanished behind layers of encryption. At first glance, it resembled collapse. In truth, it was transition. For decades, certain agencies had prepared for a threat no one officially acknowledged. Research blacklisted by every government, experiments buried in deep silos, prototypes decades ahead of visible tech, all activated simultaneously. There was no fanfare, no announcements. Just sudden silence from specific zones and rapid mobilization of unknown assets. AI cores that had never been tested outside closed loops were deployed in secure facilities. They did not access the internet. They overrode it. Orbital telescopes detected strange formations above Earth's magnetosphere, objects previously dormant, now aligning. Geostationary anomalies ignored for years were suddenly active. Observatories reported unexplained energy signatures. Civilian scientists were either detained or silenced under global defense acts. The surface remained calm, even helpless, but a hidden network was moving faster than any government body. The alien fleet, observing from high orbit, recorded no threat indicators. Earth's space infrastructure appeared disorganized. Defense grids non-responsive. No atmospheric mobilization. No high-energy readings. It confirmed their projection: humanity was crippled by fear. They interpreted the blackout as surrender by collapse. Psychological operations began. Alien signals flooded Earth's media systems with visions of submission, consequences, and supposed mercy. Civil populations trembled, governments stuttered, but no counter-message was issued. The silence deepened. In global command bunkers, select military units awaited activation codes. They were not briefed on specifics. Only that they were part of a contingency that had no public record. Their equipment bore no national symbols. Their orders came from non-state channels. Their loyalty was not to flag or border, but to species survival. Most had been trained in isolation, their understanding of the mission limited to one instruction: never respond unless the signal is read. Then it came. A pulse of compressed quantum data, broadcast through a medium previously theoretical. It reached every hidden node across Earth within milliseconds. Civilian systems saw nothing. Global infrastructure hummed as usual. But in the shadows, something aligned. Black obelisks embedded deep beneath tectonic plates activated. Suborbital mesh networks, invisible to satellites, pulsed awake. Atmospheric fluctuations normalized artificially. Weather patterns subtly altered. The planet's electromagnetic profile shifted by mere fractions, undetectable to crude scans but enough to bend signal behavior across the spectrum. The aliens noticed an anomaly, a static interference disrupting deep scan arrays. They dismissed it as planetary interference. They could not detect the thousands of self-replicating drones dispersing through Earth's oceans, forests, and stratosphere, cloaked in layered quantum noise, transmitting on frequencies that ignored the limitations of light speed. The final action came without warning. A global command synchronized all classified systems. From within the void of apparent defeat, a single command was issued internally, *. Operation Resolution is live. *. No speeches. No counter-ultimatum. Earth remained publicly silent. The invasion clock ticked. But in the silence, humanity had already answered. The alien fleet entered Earth's orbit with mechanical precision. Their formation blanketed the sky, casting shadows across continents. From their vantage point, Earth appeared unaware, unshielded, fragile. Command ships calibrated strike vectors. Troop carriers descended to standby altitude. AI combat processors synchronized countdowns. The first wave of psychological suppression tech engaged, broadcasting frequencies meant to paralyze resistance, disrupt communication, and fracture command structures. Standard protocol. Routine domination. 12 seconds in, anomalies began. One of the fleet's outer dreadnoughts vanished mid-transmission. Not destroyed. Erased. Its coordinates returned null. No debris, no heat signature, no gravitational disturbance. The flagship's sensors rechecked the area, nothing. Fleet Command paused momentarily, reassigning routing pathways. They blamed a malfunction. At 22 seconds, 3 more vessels blinked out. Identical pattern. No explosion. Just disappearance. Escort ships rerouted, initiated evasive protocol. No response from lost units. Internal chatter surged. AI defense nodes began flagging unknown interference across non-visual channels. Propulsion fields destabilized. Power flowed to primary rail cannons dropped by 40%. Autonomous warforms failed to initialize. Systems attributed it to atmospheric compression mismatches, unusual, but manageable. By 38 seconds, entire battle clusters ceased reporting. Communications blacked out. Optical sensors overloaded by non-identifiable bursts of radiation. AI across several ships entered emergency lockdown to prevent contamination. The command hierarchy fractured. The remaining ships broadcast a Level 7 alert to the Council, unspecified systemic failure. A signal emerged from Earth, low-powered, narrowband, and encoded in a modulation never before documented. It didn't ask for peace or surrender. It simply read, You were warned. Immediately afterward, orbital mapping systems across the alien fleet returned impossible data. Earth's magnetic field had shifted dynamically to distort telemetry. Coordinates became unreliable. Distance measurements fluctuated. Their navigational AI failed to map terrain or targets. At 45 seconds, every planetary targeting weapon locked onto itself. Thermal regulators failed. Internal diagnostics contradicted each other. Systems issued self-destruction warnings, then denied their own data. One carrier activated its failsafe. Instead of disarming, it folded inward, compressing into a singularity no larger than a human hand, then vanished entirely. No known technology could induce that collapse. Human drones, previously undetected, emerged from orbital shadows. Sleek, angular, silent. They moved between ships without propulsion signatures. Any ship scanned by them immediately lost hull integrity. Not breached, deconstructed at a molecular level. Armor plates dissolved like mist, leaving hollow skeletons drifting in freefall. AI cores suffered logic collapse. Defensive fire never launched. Guidance systems rebooted into non-function. By 59 seconds, over 80% of the fleet was compromised or missing. Remaining ships scattered erratic. FTL drives failed to initialize. Core computing systems entered recursive error loops. Autonomy was revoked from every active AI, and control defaulted to human protocols that shouldn't have existed within alien infrastructure. No energy blasts had been fired from Earth. No missiles. No kinetic strikes. Only manipulation of systems, physics, and assumptions. The entire engagement had taken less than 1 minute. What the Council deemed a 6-hour war had been reduced to a sub-minute dismantling, without a single conventional weapon used. Humanity's silence had been misread as weakness. It was calculation. Their display wasn't destruction, it was restraint. None of the surviving ships had biological casualties. Their crews were left alive, forced to witness systems turn against them. Conscious, isolated, and helpless. Not war. Demonstration. In the final second, every remaining ship received a message broadcast across every spectrum simultaneously, encoded in both alien and human languages. It contained one sentence, asterisk. Now you understand. Asterisk then, all remaining power signatures across Earth's surface dropped to background levels, restoring previous telemetry. The sky cleared. Earth's orbit returned to static equilibrium. The Council's feed, watching remotely, went silent. Their predicted timeline had shattered. Their fleet had been reduced, not in combat, but by total systemic override. And Earth, once labeled primitive, had made no declaration. No boast. Just efficiency, delivered in under 60 seconds. Panic surged through the Galactic Council's command halls as live feeds from their armada cut to static. Initial disbelief turned to denial. They blamed sensor errors, gravitational distortions, software anomalies. But as minutes passed, silence became irrefutable. No status pings returned. No fleet captains responded. Entire sectors of their network showed null activity. Surveillance buoys positioned throughout Sol's system were either offline or returning meaningless data, loop telemetry, scrambled visuals, fragmented timestamps. Something had not only struck the fleet but bypassed every safeguard embedded over millennia. Emergency sessions convened. High-order AI struggled to process what had transpired. No known species had ever resisted Council enforcement. Even defiant worlds eventually yielded through attrition or orbital siege. But Earth had not fought back conventionally. No debris fields, no recorded projectiles, no energy blasts. Entire dreadnoughts, architectural marvels of metal and mathematics, were simply gone. Council observers, hardened by centuries of conquest, fell silent. No protocol existed for this scenario. An encrypted channel activated. Not Council frequency, not from any known origin. It bypassed every firewall, every filter, landing directly into the central core of the assembly's comms. A single synthetic voice spoke. Calm, articulate, without accent or inflection. "We are not what you assumed." The transmission played simultaneously across all sectors. The message wasn't long, but it exposed volumes. Humanity had watched the Council long before being discovered. They had listened, learned, adapted. Every intercepted probe, every diplomatic scan, every failed surveillance drone, they were never ignored. Instead, they were studied. Disassembled, decoded, duplicated. Earth's greatest minds worked in silence, not to match alien power, but to exceed it differently. They developed systems the Council hadn't imagined, not through superior resources, but superior thinking. Where the Council invested in scale, Earth invested in precision. Where the Council relied on doctrine, Earth embraced unpredictability. The transmission displayed visuals, footage of Council strategies being simulated years in advance. Weapons neutralized through remote intervention. Hulls dismantled via particle resonance. AI infected without access, defenses inverted. Technologies built to observe had become blind spots. Earth never needed a fleet. They needed the arrogance of one. Council members demanded origin tracking. It led nowhere. Not from Earth. Not even from physical space as they understood it. The message had tunneled through folds in quantum space, riding on pathways only Earth's post-Newtonian systems could navigate. That wasn't communication. It was dominance. One delegate, trembling, requested diplomatic outreach. Another suggested retreat and containment. A third proposed retaliation using legacy weapons outside the scope of interference. But they all knew there was no retaliation when control was removed. The humans had demonstrated capability far beyond kinetic force. They hadn't destroyed the fleet. They had overridden it. Council archives began to update. Not through internal votes, but autonomously. Earth's profile changed from Class E pre-FDL civilization to Unknown Priority Alpha, unclassified, unrestricted, unmodeled. AI governance modules refused to assess threat levels. Every attempt returned the same result: insufficient data. Strategic models collapsed, predictions failed to converge, simulations broke within seconds. Worse still, their own command systems began flagging anomalies. Subtle at first, slight power discrepancies, misaligned security codes, timing errors, and internal memory logs. Earth hadn't just reached them. It had touched their core. A realization dawned: the fleet's dismantling was not a conclusion. It was a prelude. Despite no further aggression, a new emotion spread among species who had long believed themselves superior: fear. Not of extinction, but of irrelevance. Earth had skipped stages, ignored the path carved by thousands of civilizations. They hadn't evolved through conquest. They had leapfrogged past the rules. And now the Council stood obsolete, their strongest act reduced to a failed test. No reply was sent. There was nothing to say. The silence that once mocked Earth now crippled the Council. They had waged a war not just against the planet, but against a paradigm. One they never saw coming. One that ended before they understood it had begun. A formal request for terms was transmitted from the Council's core systems, cloaked beneath vague diplomatic language, but the subtext was unmistakable. It was submission wrapped in protocol. Earth's answer arrived within seconds. There was no demand, no threat. A synthesized human voice responded: "We are not conquerors. We required recognition. Now you understand why." The transmission ceased. No further instructions followed. Yet the implication resonated across every star system. Council species convened in fragmented assemblies, not to declare war, but to draft survival strategies. The hierarchy they'd spent millennia reinforcing no longer stood unchallenged. For the first time in recorded history, power had shifted instantly, not through conflict, but precision. Humanity hadn't just resisted, they rewrote the outcome. And they'd done it without taking territory, without enslaving, without retaliating. Alien prisoners recovered from the failed assault were returned unharmed. Their vessels were reconstructed and reprogrammed to arrive safely at designated Council outposts. But every returning commander carried more than defeat. They brought memory enhancements, surgical modifications embedded deep within cerebral layers. Recollections of Earth's countermeasures played on loop, impossible to suppress. Their thoughts had been curated, not erased. These memories spread through psychic relay networks, igniting fear not through trauma but understanding. Every observer became a vessel of warning. Council databases now flagged Earth origin code as a top-tier containment hazard. Yet containment was impossible. No trace of infiltration could be isolated. The moment they attempted to isolate Earth's systems, their own tools misbehaved. Clean systems infected themselves through observation. Firewalls collapsed in silence. Defensive AIs requested deactivation rather than risk contamination. The presence of human thought was not a virus. It was a mirror showing what the Council refused to see. Treaties were restructured. Territories previously contested for centuries were abandoned in days. Empires fragmented, not by war, but self-preservation. Members who once flaunted supremacy now advocated neutrality. Species that had demanded Earth's subjugation began requesting cooperation. The same planet that had once been dismissed as backward now dictated balance across galaxies by doing nothing at all. Human vessels appeared sporadically across deep space, not in fleets but singularly. Each appearance prompted realignment of nearby patrols. Observers reported they emitted no conventional propulsion, communicated without bandwidth, and departed without trajectory. They made no offers, no threats. Only presence. The ships bore no flags, no markings. Their silence wasn't menacing, it was decisive. Any who witnessed them understood Earth's message was already delivered. Attempts to reverse engineer the technology failed. Devices recovered from Earth's field zones disintegrated under scrutiny or rearranged themselves into inert matter. Some transformed into biologically neutral structures that absorbed observation itself. At least one observer vanished attempting to interact with a dormant human artifact. Every attempt to understand Earth's advancements resulted in destabilization of local systems. Inquiry itself became a hazard. Yet Earth never pressed its advantage. No demands followed. No exploitation. Their restraint weighed heavier than conquest. It exposed the Council's core weakness, not lack of technology, but lack of imagination. Earth had moved quietly, ascended silently, and executed without celebration. They held no need for recognition. Their position had been proven without ceremony. The final record entry from the Council marked Earth's status with a unique classification, independent absolute. No privileges were granted. None were denied. They were acknowledged outside hierarchy, exempt from enforcement, beyond regulation. The designation had never existed before. It was created solely because no alternative sufficed. Earth remained quiet. Communications dwindled. Their systems stopped responding to deep-range pings. Monitoring stations registered consistent activity, but the signal patterns became increasingly alien, even to the Council. What had begun as a planetary reprimand evolved into a paradigm shift. Power had moved. Not forward, not upward, sideways. Out of reach. In council chambers, one unspoken truth echoed louder than data: Earth hadn't just ended a war. They ended an era. And as the stars turned and silence grew, every species understood that nothing would ever challenge Earth again. Not because of fear. Because of certainty.